hotefo anase esoma wodoma hotefo ebenya de akwakodi ho anase edin ene wo nanso eni ho ehye nipa da sani ebetu akowiem ene onyankropon akotena democracy eyema bibifo anase enyema yen kwasi broni tim popa ene sentia wadi vaccination eba abibiman mu na family plan so mpo no ehye ben ana kwasi broni hyehyeye e wodi krom entia wodi etoa yen eba ne sen ana gay ati atese e wiase afana nyinara ene we se illuminati ene we se freemason ene we se sumwe mu ni nyinara ahyase firi he no broni tim po a wodi sanye ma we nyinara eba no de atoa abibiman mu no ene sen we entram so hwe wake up Africa kwasiada we ni kwasiada bia awia dumienu ekopem awia no mienu live on Royal TV eye adwumadi a ofa poku danko ye executive director edema free the mind movement ene ofa Israel Nkroma a eye coordinator edema free the mind movement no
ebeka me Kofi Kumi ho
na yesim konya na madi dwumadi ho chiame na ensem bia tise no ye gina twekronkron so abakosem ene ntwere ahodo so na ede mo hu ba bia obibini ufiri enu mu a edro ene soma wo sombo na mabrofo sisi a che ebra so se call together twele kaye no etumi bam ne no ana hyase o free the mind movement dwumadi e fese wake up Africa dwumadi so praso se ye fa dwumadi live on Royal TV so kwasiada we ni kwasiada bia awia dumienu kopim no mienu na ya jo so adwenche na wasemisa ye ano edi amount wake up Africa abibiman mama yen sore
one business general abatown eyeniko multimedia so pay video editing photo shoot photo editing documentary business advert music video funeral program birthday parties onua uni haukra insan say niko multimedia ebeye ni nyina na so yen yo so we your wedding papa bi niko multimedia si en ha ho kra o me cover ni nyina ma so we are sorry anaso say we edwumakuo bi a o pesa u streaming live o program aye social media handles na aye Twitter Facebook and the keka ho na niko multimedia si woni how insan so mo ye ni nyina live abra program na ekoso niko multimedia si omotonton gadget aye media gadget papa ebini aye audio and video equipment cameras speakers microphones mixers ni nyina niko multimedia aye ho adwuma niko multimedia ewo koforidia eho ana motare betimi afre niko multimedia ewo 0244549107 aye niko multimedia the media general our town. Thank you.
Amuna oba ye krumse oba betray yamesu eche no to nipa eche no diasa.
This year Sabri say oti TV ho a na ye Royal Television fidie na wote ho no Jumadi a yato ne din say Wake Up Africa na Sabri ebriaso a ya hyase say ye de ba besom wo na 15th December 2024 bosomi no ba na wiye ano no ya che bosomi nim pepepe na Wake Up Africa onim say kwasiada du sei na premoto a na kese ebriaso na se kwasiada du na premoto sei na wante mpanyifo mienu bi nka e wodwumadi so ana kese enye Wake Up Africa eye wo fa ya opoku dankwa a wo ye executive director edema eku friend free the mind movement ono ne ba Israel Nkroma a ono so ye national coordinator edema eku friend free the mind movement sampanyifo na kwasiada bia premoto a dwumadi yesi nkonwa na yetumi edesom Ghana de hye mpanyifo abeka me ho ene adwumadi e de ba be hye so eno nti na ni ameka ne se enyi ufidie ni mfi ha na time puchu na ni aye ka ne se mi se na otwe mienu se ne na mo hu yen e ofidie so na otwe se ne de mo hu yen na ni nyina ne se na Ghana dwumadi kese a na fa Ghana ni bia ho ha eye abato a na yesese yetumi ekodi na yedi yi man panyi oma opanyimfo a ebehwe oman yi so ama oman yatimi akonanim na sa dwumadie no eye na otwe ne na ahyehye so dendendin a na nya asem ketwa anu nti na dwumadie wei asese yede to wansa na obi biara timi ehwe kota ya kiri masa dwumadie na timi koso eno pepepe na ye se aman mapa aha yenso ye Ghana amamba anunti na yesi yehwe na yesa adwumadie no pepepe anunti na otwe sende anunti na mahu yen mo fa ncha yen esan sɛ ɛno deɛ na yɛ ɛfa Ghana ni bia ho yo yɛda mo ase ɛno nti ɛna abrewa yipuma kwam ama yɛtena se na wɔtwe mienu sɛnɛ ɔfagye negwa no ɔne Israel nyina gye ɔmagwa no ɔmo de yɛn kɔ ɛyɛ Jafet ɛyɛ topic a ɔfa ɛkyerɛkyerɛ mu no ɔde yɛn awura Jafet a ɔde yɛn kɔ Europe a ɛnɛ na yɛfiri sɛ kwasikɔkɔɔ ne yɛhu no wɔ Europe wɔ tiɛ yɛn sɛ Europe no koraa no ɛyɛ kwasikɔkɔɔ ɛna ahyɛaseɛ ne bibia ɔna ɔde bibia no Europe no ɔna ɔyɛyɛ na no ɛna ɔfa ɛma yɛhu ɛda na di ma yɛhu sɛ daa bi Europe no na ahyɛaseɛ mpo ɛba ahensɛm a ɛdi ɛnɛ ɛdi ntintiman wɔ Europe kɔ baabiaa ɛyɛ ahennie sɛm ɛna agye nhini kɔ Britain a Buckingham Palace a ɛno Queen no mu ne ɛnɛ King ɛna ɛte so no ne nyinaa no ɛyɛ ɔfama yɛhu sɛ ɛyɛ bibifoɔ ɛna ɛkɔkyekyere saa ahennie ne nyinaa ɛwɔ Europe Spain ne nea aka nyinaa no ɛma yɛhwɛ mu a ma yɛbɛhu sɛ mpo ɔhene a ɔyɛ ɔhenempɔn ɛwɔ Buckingham Palace a ɛnɛ ne din ato ate se sign sɛ Bible a ɛyɛ nyame asɛm kyerɛsɛm a ɛnɛ ɛyɛ nyame asɛm a yɛn nyinaa dodoɔ naa no ɛyɛ yɛn fɛ yɛyɛ ahohoahoa sɛ yɛbɛkenkan na yɛnim sɛ no na ɛdi mu paa wɔ wiase baako no King James saa na ɔhempɔn a ɔtintim saa krataa no ɛyɛ kyerɛsɛm no na ɔyɛ no ɛkɔ borɔfo mu no na ɔyɛ bibini tum ne nyinaa no ɛyɛ na wɔtwe sɛ ne ɔfa dawe nyinaa di na no ɛna ɔfa san ka kyerɛ yɛn sɛ ɛnɛ ɔbɛsan ɛde yɛ wura mu ɛna Israel ɛde yɛ toa so de ne deɛ bɛ mu a ɔbɛma yɛhu sɛ abifoɔ yɛwɔ adeɛ oye na mmom ɛyɛ kwasikɔkɔɔ ne tirim pɔ sɛ ɔbɛda ne nneɛma ɛnti na ɔyɛ aseɛ de nneɛma bi ɛba yɛ a ɔfa religion so ɛbɛfa books bi ɛyɛ my first my Bible story ayɛ dane ne nyinaa yɛ no broni ne nyinaa no na saa na ɛnte saa ɛyɛ bibifoɔ ɛho asɛm ɛna ɛka ɛno na ɔsan gyina so ka biom sɛ ɔsan si ne dua si ne pi sɛ Onyankopɔn twedi ampɔn yi adom ɔne broni bia anante there is nowhere ɛkyerɛ sɛ ɔne broni bi nanteyɛ ɔne abibifoɔ ɛna nanteyɛ in the Bible na no na question bi obi ɛsɛnde me message bi na ɔse sɛ ɔfa Israel sɛ ɔne Onyankopɔn ne obroni bi anante deɛ a ɛne na hefa nso na ɔka sɛ ɔne abibifoɔ nanteɛ na mesere yɛ saa nti nipa no onim sɛ saa Abraham Moses Jacob Daniel enum nyinaa yɛka Israel a ɔbɔ adeɛ fa a wɔn kan Genesis chapter 14:13 a ɔbɔ adeɛ frɛ Abraham ne n'asefoɔ de wɔn yɛ yinya na wɔn yɛ bibifoɔ saa time na buroni ni wiase henti na onya ɔbɔ ɔfa Israel ɛsi so dua kyerɛ sɛ Onyankopɔn ɔne blacks abibifoɔ ɛna nante yɛ saa time no na buroni ni wiase nti nipa ko no send the message no I was just laughing but ni nyinaa no adesua isan sɛ ɔno nso ne mpɛmpɛnsoɔ na desua pɛmpɛnsoɔ baabi a adu no na yɛ sɛ obisa yo ɛno nti we dia me amayi ano okay isan sɛ wona me na ade message ne brɛ me maka ne saa wie no ɛmi sɛ ebia na woni fie na nso dwumadie wopɛ sɛ woka ho ane okɔ Abɛfonten so na wohwɛ Wake Up Africa GH a evacho ɛyɛ Facebook ɛna YouTube dwumadie wobɛtumi aka ho live na wo nso wahwɛ bi sɛ saa nso na fa WhatsApp ɛne o text message brɛ me fa WhatsApp ɛne o text message fa brɛ me mekenkan ama matena si na number abɛfa so no ɛyɛ 0206 519335 0206 519335 aha mepacho dwumadie bi ɛba so a free the mind so ɔyɛ free the mind ni a na dwumadie bi ɛba so yɛdikan mpanyinfoɔ na hyehyɛ ɛyɛ free the mind mpanyinfoɔ National Council ɛna hyehyɛ saa dwumadie yi ɔmo akɔ Kumase ɔmo akɔ Cape Coast ɛna sisi ɔmo ba Kumase eti Kumase mpanyinfoɔ sɛ mo te nkaiboya na mo aboaboa mo ho ɛyɛ business seminar a mpanyinfoɔ ahyehyɛ sɛ yɛde kɔ the whole Ghana na branches ni bia no anya ɛho mfasoɔ no adu Kumase ɛso na Kumase no venue no baabi a ɛbɛba so no ɛyɛ Asem school venue no yɛ asem school na a time ne ɛyɛ 10 a.m. anopa sharp 10 a.m. pepe na ahyɛ aseɛ na date no ɛyɛ 1st February ɛyɛ 2025 1st February 2025 bosomi a ɛtɔ so mmienu ne da edi kan ɛna Kumase business seminar no ɛbɛhyehyɛ so National Council ɛna ɛtu saa na mo na ba ɛno nti mu behu ɔpanyin Israel ɛwɔ hɔ na ada members ɛka ne ho ne team ɛka ne ho ɛwzo nom ɔmo nyinaa no agyata no mu nyinaa ɛta yɛkyire a yɛ nyinaa mpanyinfoɔ ɛbɛhwɛ na ɔmo bɛpie mu ɛwɔ Kumase maka ne saa wie no yɛbɛtɔn adeɛ kakra na afei ya mpanyinfoɔ hɔ na dwumadie no yɛde ahyehyɛ so Israel consort onim sɛ ɔno ɔkɔ a ɔde bi ba ane na mikuta ɛyɛ spectacle yi ɛyɛ quantum spectacle na ne dwumadi a edi ɛne sɛ wɔ glaucoma mpakyɛ ɛnyɛ wo dia glaucoma deɛ mpakyɛ spectacle yi untimi enyusi entumi ensa glaucoma na mmom apart from glaucoma na ebia wo obi a okenkan adeɛ kakra na kusukuku asi wani so okenkan adeɛ na obu nso wani puru nsuo saa wo hyɛ ɛdan mu sua adeɛ kenkan a obu nso obepie abɔnten no pie awie no mpobo nso wani so ayotum mo saa no ɛna spectacle yi ɛkɔma mo we ɛyabusua nkyɛmfa esan sɛ wo hyɛ ɛbɛsɛ wani ni yareɛ enti wo bɛhyɛ na sa edum pɛpɛnso a wo sa afei wani no ahele awie asa wani ni yareɛ awie a na afei wayi ato hɔ na wo nua bi ɔno nso wɔ saa ɔhaw no na ɔno nso afa ɛde ahyɛ ɛno akyi no adwumayɛfoɔ a time bia no ebia wote screen anim ebia TV laptop tablet phone mo saa nso so no pacho saa spectacle yi ɛkɔma mo esan sɛ ɛbɛbɔ wani ne ho ban afiri radiation ho ɛbɛbɔ wani ne ho ban afiri radiation ho ɛno nti spectacle yi bɔmɔden na wonsa entumi enka bi yo maka ne saa wie no Israel consort ɛnɛ ɔde books aba ane book we ɛyɛ book a ɛmɛ nkrɔfoɔ ate ne din paa nkrɔfoɔ ato ne din book no nkrɔfoɔ ate book ne din ɛyɛ the book of Enoch ope bi ato a ane opusu Israel consort number na book we onsa ebetumi akabi saa nso ɛna the book of Jasher books ayi obehu na amanfo bisa sɛ books na yeye no ɔmpe bi atɔ na yɛnkyɛ ɔmba bi ɔmbenya bi atɔ okay we de Israel nkasa sɛ ɔkɔfa aba enti no ope bi atɔ a ɔde apusu ne number no ohwɛ screen so obehu sɛ Israel consort number no egu so opusu a books yi enyina wo nsa bi ebe ka bi we any books ahoro aka ɛna ɛwɔ hɔ a sɛ ofrɛ na obisa nea ɔpa wo nsa ebetumi aka bi okay maka ne saa wie no afei yɛn na mpanyifo na di na afei dwumadie no yɛn fa nhyehyɛ so Israel mo akɔ aba joso mo giri sɛ bia ɛbɔkɔ ɛdɔ bɔ ade ase ɛndura nso so yɛkɔpie mu wɔ dwumadie bi ase ɛwɔ kolebu ne fam hɔ na ɔfa na nya asɛm ketewa yɛda yɛn ho adi ɛma me kyerɛ amanfoɔ sɛ ɛnɛ na ɔmo bisa na me sɛ ɛnɛ yi ɛnɛ kwasie bɔ nom dumienu pɛpɛpɛpɛ na ɔmo ntena ɔmo TV ho na ɔmo bi ho oluman ya ne chi fitaa na nabɔgye fitaa na ɔda yɛka sɛ Hebrewfoɔ a sɛ yɛkɔpie mu yɛka sɛ Hebrewfoɔ no na dodo na so ayɛ mu hwantan na yɛkyerɛkyerɛ nneɛma mu ne ɔmo didi nkɔmɔ no ɛna ɔmo yɛ sɛ o saa na tie de a yɛ sɛ ai tie ne na ɔmo nto aso na ɔmo nhwɛ na ɔmo hwɛ a ɔmo bi hu dwumadie no enti ɔfa we de me makɔ aba
eje so
me gye sɛ bibia bɔkɔ yɛda ɔbɔ ade ase ɔfa we de am sɛ yama pa atiefoɔ kyɛw so sɛ ɛyɛ na ɔtwe sɛ ndɛ deɛ nti a yɛntumi amba ɛno deɛ mi so ɔmo nim sɛ ɛnyɛ yɛn a ɛyɛ dwumadie kɛseɛ fa Ghana fo nyina ho ɔmo agye atom na saa biri deɛ ɔmo nim sɛ wotena ase a nsɛmpa ɛna yɛ a wode ba ɛna ɛno sisi nsɛmpa na wode ba ne deɛ dodoɔ na sɛ obi text message ne nkɔfoɔ fra ɔmo say they are proud to be blacks but first no na kyɛ sɛ obi kra kasa nipa tuntum asɛm na ɔmo tumi fu ɔmo ho sɛ ɔyɛ tuntum nyame abɔ ne tuntum but ɛnɛ no o ama afei de ohu sɛ da bi ɛsɛ sɛ ɔgye ne tuntum no tum na afei ɔma ne homrɛ so ɛno nti menim sɛ saa bere yi ɔmo fidie no ɔmo de ato hɔ a ɔmo hwɛ wo medase meda njumadi ni dia
yo kofi medase yedi ka be chia ahwefo gyina
ahwefo agye so
na otwe bi no etwa mu no ense your presentation ba mra ne viewers and listeners interacting questions me ni bi ba
okay
na just quickly me ya no free ho obi the tax by no so person who the descendants of Abraham and in the year Keturah na or the bar twice cry you got Genesis 20 yeah carrying
okay
and maybe Genesis 25 1-4 ampa Abraham ne Keturah wo mama insia Zerah Joshua Medan Midian Ishabak and Ashua enti yeda omadi Genesis 25 1-4 and I Genesis 37 28-36 in so and where Jacob man no mo call Egypt a confirm ya ni ba no the omu ya Joseph and omu omu ko kan ni to omu kaya and pity bi and omu kan say abo bi achi na average omu be kan jo papa mo ye na Genesis 37 28-36 ni who said descendants of Midian Abraham ni Keturah Babema Bako na sefo the Midians one they go yi Joseph free amnan omo no ko ton no ma Ishmaelites na tell a story no we see and you remember who say any descendants of Abraham ni Keturah manu ubenya omo bare dodo ran so Saudi Arabia na Saudi Arabia no one will clear the trunk of the population of Saudi Arabia. Okay. And now the Bisaya of descendants, no. Oko Bari, now the Oko Saudi Arabia, and when I be Abraham Keturah and Manu. Hold on. And I'm here, Madam for Albert, which I will be. What should be say? Or Africa map no as of Africa a drew baby no who said North Africa one more na be nkoko for omaji northern part of Africa no person who said no so then buy Albert 1095 and a Pope here friend Pope Urban II now Roman for him say Hebrew for assassin so AD 70. Ama nkramofo Ishmaelites omu na betra assassin so Holy Land ho. Nto omu si yes so omu timi ko pabu sankofo ni free ho. Omu ji Jerusalem any Holy Land from their preserve European civilization. The 1095 and a book we saye of volunteers and almost started. And I offer and talk about a friend Crusaders Wars and buy. So Crusaders Wars, you know, and lasted for 300 years. And 6 million Europeans and a bar region more. A Indian, Kunipa, a repute indigenous Africans now. How we start to go for until the Americans say intermingling between European nationals here because by European nationals of all tribes different the Kokuchia almost started until Tokonan Kasa started 1099 and members between 11th and 13th centuries, you know. And to go ya bu no mako group no mamba no ma beji near two saa de ko intermingling na ba ye no na be starting ma yu Arab fo a omu ye nkokon fo so do descendants of Ham and the original Arabs They don't going to know, dear, or my president of 1 year. Of course, I read, yeah, one more, the woman, Baba. Any woman, your homes are much spread about nothing but of Africa in now. 1 year, the offspring of Crusaders wars. I get intermingling between indigenous African population and any European Crusaders here or Mukoi. The real Sierra demography now area on society. And how almost buy on my president almost say, in fact, one the indigenous of the land. One Euro Arabs and one the indigenous of the region. One religion no cry any Islam. And the US did. One call Holy Land no so now for your munya spill over. Your first picture.
Your first picture of Adama and Abudi and Dasoni, the Arab Leagues. The Arab Leagues. But your picture no more fancy so my.
In Tiano, and natural Euro Arab sea. The Roma Jia Akente or Maniswa. Aya omo area enini into northern part of Africa no abedi omo nsem nti entina ye ka Africa ho asem a tem bia no you say south of the Sahara because North Africa there a free answer e ho na house wo nti Albert no me ba bia masem so a de wo mu ni say last 2 weeks they starting Japheth there no you can hear your mamu pictures bebre any videos see piano in there who's ampa. European civilization was founded on black civilization because indigenous of Europe Japheth and then as if for me now were blacks so they can move here eventually the Japanese who feel by and chakra. Let us how the Abutaya, I said, Abutaya bread, or move sharing with the Bruni, or curious about and chakra. The black Africans play major role, significant role in shaping early European culture. European governance, so they can't idiot and before you had a control and a spirituality. And to make it say, you correct your pictures be now for your tears in really on my head. Okay. Second picture here National Geographic News, May 19th, 2005. Blacks, the first Europeans. On passe picture no into Somalia. Next picture. The next picture no Celts of Celts. Okay. Celts of ancient Britain. Move us a picture no into Somalia. Next picture. Before culture yeah. And Eba. Next picture. Next picture no Africans of ancient Rome part 1. Sa picture na crowd am fanti so mai. Okay. Next picture no News African. News Africa. New African. Oh okay. So okay. New Africans. Sa no macho no. Over. New African. New African. October 2010. African Romans who built Britain. Sapi chana kada mu fanti so mai. And when we now pictures here the be nyina dia dance here. How the foundation of early European civilization was laid. Sanya yehu. Yanya kan say we enko here first video. Your first video no Europe's hidden African heritage revealed. Munjasa video no ngumai.
Welcome to this episode. The history of Europe is often portrayed as an isolated narrative, disconnected from the rest of the world. However, a growing body of research suggests that Africa and Europe were far more intertwined than conventional histories often acknowledge. Scholars such as David McRitchie, Gerald Massey, and Godfrey Higgins have argued for a deep and pervasive African presence in ancient Europe, proposing that Black Africans played a significant role in shaping the early civilizations of Europe. This presence, largely forgotten or intentionally obscured, offers a richer understanding of the development of European societies and reveals the fundamental connections between Africa and Europe that date back millennia. This video explores the arguments of these scholars and others who have documented the African presence in Europe. Through their interpretations, we can better understand how Africa's influence extended beyond its borders, contributing to the development of early European culture, governance, and spirituality. In the 19th century, David McRitchie, a Scottish folklorist and historian, proposed that early populations in Britain and other parts of Europe were of African descent. In his book, Ancient and Modern Britons, 1884, McRitchie argued that the original inhabitants of Britain were a dark-skinned people who were later supplanted or assimilated by lighter-skinned invaders. The earliest inhabitants of these islands were of a dark-skinned race, and they left traces of their presence not only in folklore, but in the physical characteristics of certain regions, McRitchie wrote, suggesting that Britain's history has been partially obscured by later narratives. McRitchie also linked the Moors, who ruled large parts of Europe during the Middle Ages, to Black Africans. He argued that these Moors were not exclusively Arab or Berber, but included a very significant number of Africans from Africa south of the Sahara. This theory challenges the traditional portrayal of the Moors as exclusively Mediterranean, and instead emphasizes the predominantly African nature of their empire. Godfrey Higgins, another 19th century scholar, advanced similar ideas in his work Anacalypsis. Higgins was particularly interested in the ancient Celts and Druids, whom he believed had African roots. He proposed that the early inhabitants of Europe, particularly the British Isles, were related to the Ethiopians or other African peoples. There is substantial evidence to suggest that the ancient Celts and Druids had direct ties to Africa, both culturally and linguistically, Higgins wrote, indicating that the spread of African influence into Europe occurred far earlier than commonly assumed. Gerald Massey, a British Egyptologist, also explored the African roots of European civilization. In his monumental work, Ancient Egypt, The Light of the World, Massey argued that the religious and philosophical systems of ancient Egypt, a civilization with clear African roots, laid the foundation for many European traditions. The myths, symbols, and rituals that we associate with early European religion were often African in origin, Massey wrote, adding that the African presence in Europe was not limited to migration, but extended to the transmission of ideas and beliefs. A significant portion of the argument for Africa's historical role in Europe focuses on the Moors, who ruled in many parts of Europe, especially Spain and Portugal, for several centuries. The traditional historical narrative often describes the Moors as Arabs or Berbers, but scholars like McRitchie, Higgins, and Massey argue that the Moors were largely Black Africans. The term Moor itself, derived from the Latin morus, has historically been used to describe dark-skinned people. In medieval European art and literature, the Moors were frequently depicted as black, further supporting the idea that they included predominantly African peoples among their ranks. McRitchie in particular emphasized the African identity of the Moors, noting that historical records frequently describe them as dark-skinned. The Moors, though often described as Saracens, were in fact a diverse group, many of whom were Africans. Their influence extended not only to Spain and Portugal, but also to France, Italy, and even parts of Britain, McRitchie wrote. highlighting the widespread impact of African peoples in medieval Europe. The Moors were not merely conquerors, they also played a crucial role in the intellectual and cultural development of Europe. During the period of Moorish rule in Spain, the city of Cordoba became one of the most advanced centers of learning in the world, renowned for its libraries, universities, and scholars. Many of these scholars, who were Black Africans, contributed to the preservation and expansion of knowledge in fields such as mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. The Moors also introduced new agricultural techniques, architecture, and art forms that had lasting effects on European society. This African influence extended beyond Spain and Portugal. In Italy, for example, the Moors left a significant cultural imprint, particularly in Sicily. The Norman kingdom of Sicily, which flourished in the 12th century, was heavily influenced by the Moorish culture that had dominated the island for centuries. The architecture of this period, with its intricate mosaics and geometric designs, clearly reflects African and Islamic influences. Gerald Massey's work goes beyond the political and military presence of Africans in Europe, delving into the spiritual and philosophical influence of African cultures, particularly ancient Egypt, on Europe. Massey believed that many of the key religious symbols and myths that shaped early European Christianity were borrowed from African traditions. He argued that the figure of the Madonna and Child, for instance, had its roots in the Egyptian imagery of Isis and Horus. The veneration of the Virgin Mary and the infant Jesus in European Christianity finds its prototype in the African mother, Isis, and her child, Horus, Massey wrote, suggesting that the African contribution to European religion was foundational. Massey also explored the influence of African cosmology and mythology on European religious thought. He argued that the concept of resurrection, central to Christianity, was borrowed from the African Osirian myth, in which the god Osiris is resurrected after being killed by his brother Set. The story of Christ's resurrection is but a retelling of the much older African myth of Osiris, a myth that predated Christianity by thousands of years, Massey wrote, asserting that European religious thought was deeply indebted to African spirituality. This transmission of African religious ideas to Europe likely occurred through multiple channels. The Phoenicians, a seafaring people who traded extensively with both Africa and Europe, played a key role in spreading African religious symbols and practices to the Mediterranean and beyond. Godfrey Higgins suggested that the Phoenicians, whom he believed
Abusia Wake Up Africa and when you go so awoshe na wabeshia historian papa we na okopie mu university a professors almost all historians or my lectures we are no catch school for ni say ni a ochire na ochire wie na mam bisa no question na mo de ba me nchen ya munya. This is the historian and the offer there onye just tabi keke o ka asem a nye tabi keke na one history of Yamayen. We history a tie enye bibini na chiro you. We abrofuna no historians o magidin a obom din o mo mu a omo nim say we form ni agro. Omo na o ma chiro no maye history books we no maye sa ayu ade ato documentary we ato. And o ma kire which field of abrabo ena enye in Europe no enye before ena kireye wohwɛ saa history of adema yɛ mention agriculture, medicine, and then mention it, geography, mathematics. In every area of obioni and there our TSC or no de bayeno foundation omo de sade ni nyina jaya omo besua nti omo abrofo omo besua yo omo besua fi bibini before na de sane ma ni nyina akoye ho ena no sane ma no omo practice omo ye ho adwuma wo Europe wo ena abrofo ni ba mu besua bi ena ne se eja se den e ba ye de ba ne na ahoma ete na te ahoma mu ma ne bayre no anwe ne se a ofa ba chire mu eno ena ofa ama ye hwe history of Europe we nye babia Spain, Portugal, England, Britain, any European countries aka France. Ni nyina ena ofa ama ye hwe history a nia bibifo ekoye a ne ama ye boburu ni din over pacho edase
enti the mistress kese kra ni spirituality.
Yes.
Christopher sorry na this is a wu wa sorry wu wa mbe twetwa ya so a abemo ho ba bi fi ya bi fi ya ka to mo ne enti no ansa na Jesus e ba no obi no ayo sa ne ma ni nyina ko e di apeto ko mami ko mreni ho ya re second video yes no e ka about black nobility senya ya fe ahensem ne positions akesia e wo Europe at that time.
Okay.
Video no to
yo the next video no black nobility in Europe. Mo fa sa video no ngu mai.
Appearances in European royal and nobility families as the ages passed. A lot of Europeans even saw their gods reflected in this black presence. Still, many people have a hard time seeing Africans as revered characters because of the iconoclast movement's persistent efforts in this regard. Iconoclasm has been around since at least the 8th century, however it takes on a more muted form in modern times. Historians cherry-pick instances that support the slave narrative while ignoring the divine or nobility roles played by black people. The remarkable evolution of depictions of Queen Elizabeth I over time is a startling illustration of this historical erasure. Chronicles of Black's Channel delves into this viewpoint in depth, using primary sources and peer-reviewed research to highlight the frequently neglected African influence and presence throughout history. In his letter, Ambassador Giovanni Michel said, "She was born to Henry VIII and Anne, an Englishwoman of high family, after Queen Catherine's, the current Queen's, rejection. Your Serenity should know this because she is the sister of the present Queen. Despite being beheaded for adultery 2 years later, my Lady Elizabeth was born in September 1533, making her 23 years old today. Although her face is more attractive than handsome, this young woman is just as well regarded for her intellect as she is for her physical beauty. She has good-looking, though swarthy, skin, and is tall and toned." Swarthy means dark complexion or black in Old English, in case you were wondering. Despite this, Elizabeth is typically shown in pictures with pale complexion and fiery red hair. Pay attention to this because it will be crucial later on. Sir James Melvin gives the following description of Elizabeth in his work English and Scottish History, which is another version of her. "Her naturally curly hair was more reddish than yellow. She wanted to know if my hair was considered the best hue, if hers or my queen's was better, and which of the two was the fairest." Many of these women have naturally curly red hair, which is a common hairstyle for black women. The description of Elizabeth as having dark skin and red curly hair is therefore constant. In case you needed more proof that iconoclasm destroyed many depictions of black aristocracy, here is how Queen Elizabeth describes Sir Francis Walsingham in her book Queen Elizabeth by Alison Weir. Having received an education at Cambridge and Padua, Walsingham became a member of Parliament when he was nearly 40 years old. Cecil, who later became his patron, gave him a position at court and made him head of his secret operatives. Elizabeth dubbed Walsingham more due of his dark complexion and black attire. That Sir Francis Walsingham was swarthy of complexion, and the Queen's nickname for him Moor is plain to see in this passage. But if we look for pictures of him, we can see that he is everything but swarthy. Black Moors didn't just show up in England. They showed up all over Europe, even in unexpected spots. The monarch in Scotland during the 10th century was called Dub Mac Mael Coluim. Historical dictionaries suggest that Dub used to denote black in Scotland. His complexion has been lightened in subsequent portrayals, but it was previously shown as dark. By narrating the reign of Kenneth the Niger over 3 Scottish districts, the Mystery of Legends of Scotland verifies the existence of black Scots. According to author and archaeologist David MacRitchie, the Moors remained in Scotland until the reign of the Saxon monarchs. Throughout the Middle Ages, black aristocracy was still present on the European peninsula. A medallion from 16th century Italy shows a European king with distinct African characteristics. The king's identity is unknown. The same holds true for the 12th century Italian philosopher Ibn Rushd, also known as Averroes. Among the many black Moors who held the throne were rulers of great empires, such as the Byzantine Empire. In the relatio of Liutprand of Cremona, for example, Nicephorus II Phocas is portrayed as very quickly, through the thickness and length of his hair, in the color of an Ethiopian, someone you wouldn't want to cross paths with in the dead of night. The way he is portrayed in contemporary art, however, differs greatly from this description. The most revered Byzantine monarch of all time, John II Komnenos, 1118 to 1143, was characterized as, despite being known as the Moor, this man is of medium height and has black hair and skin. William of Tyre's Chronology, 1523. Likewise, according to Nicetas Choniates, who lived during his time, Manuel I Komnenos was described as one particular Ethiopian with dark skin. As they crowned him emperor of the Romans, they escorted him in a royal parade. But photos of them taken after the iconoclast period look different. King Augustus the Strong of Poland, Polish nobleman Leszek the Black from the 13th century, Polish knight Zawisza the Black, Queen Charlotte of the Holy Roman Empire, whose family tree includes Moorish Portuguese blood, and the list goes on and on. Edward of York's wife, Philippa of Hainaut, was born in 1310 in Valenciennes, France, and she too had black Moorish descent. Also reflecting black influence spanning ages are figures such as theologian Jacobus Capetine, composer George Bridgetower, who rivaled Beethoven, and writer Alexander Dumas, *, The Three Musketeers *.
Abusia ogusa o share Wake Up Africa na abrofo na ya adwuma wo na no na ofase ontenase na ono de entro ba bia ntro bia wo no obepa ho ntoma ene ne dwumadi a ose ono odi dwumadi kase a da bia wa hye ode a hye free the mind for ene ne team a omude o chechero made nyina se ye pa entro ho ntoma anu ntia no na wakoyi enema abrofo na nkasa tro abrofo na nkasa ye me ehimfa Europe ehimfa Poland, Scotland, Britain, France, Italy, even Roman Empire na nkasa na omo kira like I say omo nyina no before ti o say nobility ye ka ahinie samne positions akese a Europe first no omo na omo disu no omo kuja like I say before nko above in everywhere and ya bobo ana oguso ekono we ana ofase ono de oye enu nti enu wafasa na ma we nyina kwasi buro ni kwasi kokko omo kan o ti se omo ankasa abrofo no ayi sa pictures no ene so omo bo sa ankrofo ni nyina din a na omo aye ne kokko nti ene ye ka ye fe ne sem Britain Queen oba ya Elizabeth first na ye no broni enso enye broni bibini tum eno ena ofa kofa ba omo abrofo na de na dia ma yehu ze omo abrofo na bro omo dia boye ne mpese be hu sa die we nyina no ene de ofa ko yi ni nyina pia o de na dia ma yehu medamase ofa
yo yesu medas na obeje Jesus ye ka Zeus ye ka Apollo ye ka Hercules agbe be ko sa de ye dia che abrofo now everything originated with the African. Next picture.
The next picture no African gods and goddesses in the ancient world. Mufasa picture no ento so maye.
Original artworks they were all blacks. And so they came for me, and almost a son, Messi too, Roman for by, but see not at it. Yeah, you are. A barbecue say it started with Europeans. See not a nosity. Now, her video, they are moss, African moss. Yes, African moss, a group of Africans are almost easy. Spain and Portugal. Now, almost easy. One rule Europe, 2 countries here, almost spread almost Scotland now, for over 700 years. From 711 to 1492, and almost easy. The concept of soap. In a year, no May, no June, or Mawari. The man said, Bosome Munankani, Sanya Manintino, and a copper says, Sanya Mubaria. You don't know about flowers, bouquet of flowers. Sanya Bema, Omuhari Ram Kakra. And a number accessory, wedding accessory. And Abi Pigana, who direct imperial and prince ID. Now we ask a bouquet of flowers. Or no bouquet of flowers, no be Yinka. No, we are as well. 80 about the concept of soap, cleanliness, hygiene. Now, most in a career of the core approach. And never be one can making kind of have time on tea, yanking kind. Woman at the maths, science, algebra, any take a home by and almost setting up universities. Me man casa ewa. Yanko next picture.
Your next picture no Weekly Spectator 21st June 1986 Africa. First with algebraic symbols. Mufasa picture into Sumaye.
Algebra, me na me permas, na me ni nyama. Ni ya ba yi na before and the bar algebra. Next picture.
1986 o papa di badi o yato. Ya semo. 1986 graphic.
Spectator.
1986 21st June. Okay.
Next picture.
Yeah, papa we. Yo. New Africans, October 2012. Documents that explain Islamic science dating from the period between the 8th and 16th centuries AD are simply irreplaceable. Pacho, mufasa enso ento somaye.
Where Timbuktu? Learning, center of learning. The woman at the church of Christ, they preserve their bedroom. Next video. Sanya, and before civilizing. Where the Bitiano any mama. Civilization beginning at the common
yo. The next video now, this is how Africans civilized Europe. This is how Africans civilized Europe. Sabi United
came into Europe. They were coming up out of a lot of different situations, a lot of different diseases. Africans brought in the concept of soap. They brought in something that they called alcohol, A-L-K-U-H-L, and today we call it alcohol. They realized that the great majority, upwards of maybe somewhere between 95 and 98% of Europe was illiterate. Now, illiterate, we have to understand, is that the world was an agricultural world. There was no real reason to study the higher levels of science and arts. But in Africa, these subjects had been in place for thousands of years, and they brought these universities in, and they began to build these universities. and they began to educate the people. The first math rigor that you face in freshman year is algebra. This is algebra. This is algebra brought in by the Moors, and it's the search for the unknown. So you're searching for what that X represents. And the equal sign, we know that whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, you do on the other side of the equal sign. So you have in your formulations the idea of searching for the unknown by searching for justice and balance and harmony and the laws of Ma'at. So after you have mastered algebra, geometry, and trigonometry, you then begin the calculations of the heavens and the earth, which we call calculus. So they brought in this concept of a pattern of study.
Na opa bi zamzo ayese ahun na me ho ya me de mitima me de adentia me ya bibrini na se me history ni dia na ke se mitirimu aye me de na me yire me ho isanse bibi pa wo ho mayen ni nyina no aya na emmobo hwene ma mos ade call Europe ana broni in a year no jare of also jare back up once a year enti na do May June na obeware na that time so we jare awia ma ne ho bon nti obeware dia na se okope flowers ehwam na wa chechire na okura se na be ya ebe ma aware no nka ne ade e bon no na we na yakofa aye style na we as mo history ho of that was in history we nyina o dey mayen ampa of the book no kura kire me agese nkanya se timer kebe kenkan me yahu se ampa e wo ho enti we na of eda na dia ma yahu ze ye kasa bibini a ye di wiase so anya buroni na kire ye ana ede bibi ba ye before na de nia ye hu nyina no e bae of
yeah next video
your next video no ye to aso dia
same civilization.
Yeah, how Africa civilized Europe. How Africa civilized Europe. Mufasa video ne engu maye. How Africa.
The existence of a substantial black aristocracy in Europe before 1453 is suggested by more than simply a handful of images. A large amount of evidence still exists, even though there have been constant attempts to hide and eradicate this African presence for centuries. In 1352, Jacob van Maerlant painted a renowned scene depicting Charlemagne vanquishing a Moorish chief, but the chief was portrayed as a black African by the artist. A foundation built on the wisdom of the past sings the wisdom that will build our tomorrow. The truth is that historical revisionists are the ones who refuse to acknowledge the mountain of evidence showing that black people, as part of a second wave of civilizing influence, revitalized Europe and set the stage for its renaissance. Black Africans introduced literature, science, religion, and culture to Europe and the Levant after creating agriculture about 9500 BC and building the two most important civilizations of antiquity, Sumer and Kemet, also known as ancient Egypt. These innovations were passed down to the Roman Empire, which used them until it fell in the 5th century AD. The Moors, an ethnic group originally from Africa, arrived to Europe in the 8th century just as the continent was plunging into the Dark Ages. They brought with them the technology and knowledge that had halted its progress up until that point. The ethnic composition of the Moors changed throughout the 800 years that they ruled Spain. In the era before the Renaissance in Europe, the first waves of Moors, mostly black Africans, held great sway and filled important positions of power. As they joined the first wave of civilizers, these early Moors established a new class of elites across Europe. All sorts of relics and documents from the past attest to their existence. Just because black Africans played a crucial role in the Renaissance doesn't mean that Asians and Europeans can't establish civilizations as well. On the contrary, it emphasizes how the Dark Ages Europe profited much from the reintroduction of scientific knowledge, philosophical ideas, medical practices, and architectural masterpieces brought by a black African elite who eventually became a noble class. Historical personalities are portrayed in memoirs of the Secret Service of John Mackey with great detail. One account that stands out is that of Mr. Methuen, Portugal's ambassador. He is characterized as a man of intrigue with a very muddy complexion, and in manners much like a Spaniard, a tall black man 50 years old. To this day, Mackey has never changed his description of the Moors, calling them tall men of black complexion. This portrayal is consistent with the Moors seen in medieval manuscripts, sculptures, and paintings. Artists and authors of the time often depicted the Moors with distinctive black looks, even though the Moorish population was comprised of Arabs as well as black Africans. This was due to the great number of black Africans among the Moors. The Almoravids, who were mainly black Africans from what is now Mali and Mauritania, were one powerful group. Among their many innovations that they transported to Europe was the horseshoe arch. The following is an account of the Almoravids from the Historia Compostelana. After almost 3 years, the Almoravids, Mobit, whom the heat of the sun makes similar to the Ethiopians, invaded the fortresses and dependent towns of Toledo and attacked with more force than usual. Adding to the description, before they ruled, they had worn their veil in the desert only against the heat and cold as the Arabs do, and were mostly of dark Asmar complexion. A shade as black as coal is described by the Arabic word Asmar. Identifiable black characteristics were used to portray leaders such as Abu Bakr ibn Umar. Europe was in a state of disarray in 711 AD when the Moors spearheaded their conquest of Spain. Europe was in shambles, with hunger, ignorance, illness, and anarchy ravaging the continent 3 centuries ago, when the Roman Empire collapsed. With the coming of the Moors came the fast advancement of European society and the unification of previously divided groups under the Church. Despite their negative reputation, the Moors introduced many innovations to the region, including the Arabic numeral system, geometry, mathematics, medicine, agriculture, building, music, navigation, papermaking, and waterworks. In the end, these things were crucial to the Renaissance that happened in Europe. These Africans frequently brought Arabic translations of classical Greek writings back to Europe, ensuring their survival.
Wake Up Africa. Na history yeshe no nea otire nyina ne yese before and de bibiara ene broni adu no ene de ba nemum opese ye ma omahu se ono broni nankasa afakwanyesa nyina so dane sade ni nyina no ene wa change ni nyina de ni nyina no ayese broni ene de ba over that's na me was surprised ba kuma obiale. Wow. Aye bia mo amabisa ku ahwehwe ahunu se ban senti ena judge for any lawyer for a week as a social assessor. Ever say 17th century mu hono and a cobase African heritage a European society mu say after the obia person nya a certain identification bi a ever from na brabo. Now one of the earliest practices I make when they say a conformation week. Now week is a judicial week. And yeah, normal week, yeah, judicial week. Say to say lawyer for only judge for. It is all a lawyer. We are judge, not need the history, no. And then you are unity. And now we are see Burkina Faso for can say, "Oma to Saadi na twe wegi sheri colonial relic." Oh boy, any colonial relic. Now who be free? We embassy. During the 17th century, I King Charles. I know a black king. Now the curly hair, no. Such say, if a man, European society, and as a British society, you say, the person yet to say, no, the person yet to say, and it's a special week. Now, although no, in fact, role modeler, yes, no. Yeah, the eye. Into no judge for no lawyer for wig na no motion no. The impact of African hairstyle in medieval Europe. You can hear this video. Wow. Your next video I share no. African hairstyles impacting medieval judicial wig as a social accessory. Unja sa video nengum
heritage of numerous European nobles, knights, judges, dukes, duchesses, viscounts, led to the incorporation of black phenotypic into European cultural rites. There are numerous fascinating activities that come to light when one looks at the long-lasting cultural aspects that originated in medieval Europe. Wearing wigs is the earliest famous practice. This custom originated in the courtroom, and historical records reveal that attorneys were expected to present themselves in court with neat, short hair and beards until the 17th century. For all intents and purposes, wigs made their debut in courtrooms as a social accessory. Wearing a wig was considered proper courtesies during the reign of Charles II, 1660 to 1685. Who, then, was the model that the populace was trying to emulate? They were acting out a scene from Henry II. The merry monarch, Charles II, 1630 to 1685, was a healthy-looking infant who appeared much older at 4 months of age. He looked like a 1-year-old, according to his mother's complaint. Charles, who was referred to as a tall black man on parliamentary wanted posters, began fighting in the English Civil War when he was 12 years old. If Charles II was said to be a tall black guy, then why wouldn't artworks included on Wikipedia reflect that? You probably already know the drill. His natural hairstyle, together with that of old black nobility, started to impact important parts of European society. The pictures show how the curly hair on the shoulders of the medieval wigs resembles the hairstyles of Africans. The issue it begs is, whose hair was it that these wigs were trying to imitate if not African hairstyles? These wigs are definitely unlike your average European haircut, thanks to their tightly curled texture. Black Africans are the only people on the planet with this unique style of kinky hair. The YouTube channel straight up raised the question of why anybody, particularly members of high society and monarchy, would go for these specific African hairstyles if given the choice.
Yeah, we there. Me no, and then the officer will try a surprise. Now we will try a surprise and pa. It's in and then you will a judges no na o ma hye na gukura mutiri no enye ade bia o yenya bibini trinwi a sene na osifati a abrofo ni hu ana omo hwe na keze o ma ye age omo nwanwa afa no ena omo ye se ene sese na be lifestyle ye de campo akose over here dancing over with the budget to aso hey
enti say the importance of hair trimming and Ghanaians so na Ghana ha e me ma we tri ho that in their local hair once
okay
na we na me di ma no be we no e ko wie say e before na mo wo Europe e ko ba nyina no e ko wie say and have black art you black people will be after some time or if you
your next picture no Thomas Cromwell, first Earl of Essex, 1485 to 1540, chief minister to King Henry VIII. Mufasa picture na to so
Thomas Cromwell we are no yet chief minister to King Henry VIII. Only the revolution be Britain. Also the reforms, religious reforms or say monasteries and was say artworks. Kwa remember na or say na enti or my evidence e wo ho a de enya bia e dikire yi e be yira o na nam so a obebu ga ni na ma ekore ya next picture.
The next picture no it was Thomas Cromwell who destroyed all evidences of black rule in Britain. I see.
And you know
Thomas Cromwell why ya dey
and nam so a we ni na be destroyed. And the destroy no Anna, the Telegraph, British paper, every article be by 2015. Thomas Cromwell, the son of Juma, and the extent of damage or say black art.
Okay.
Can we can mammy nafi?
Okay.
Go here, no kusumra, but prepare quite a money.
Okay. And then there is his impact on this country's artistic and intellectual heritage. No one can be sure of the exact figure, but it is estimated that the destruction started and legalized by Cromwell amounted to 95% of the English Act then in existence. Statues were hacked down. Frescoes were smashed.
Frescoes.
Okay. Free schools were smashed to bits. Mosaics were impoverished. Illuminated manuscripts were shredded. Wooden carvings were burned. Hey! Precious metal works were melted down. Shrines were reduced to rubble. This vandalism went away beyond a religious reform. It was a frenzy obliterating the artistic patrimony of centuries of indigenous craftsmanship with an intensity of hatred for imagery and depicting the divine that has strong and resonant parallels today of Ambacho Mewi.
That's it. Thomas Cromwell. And a buyer, but this was I mean, how Africans rule. The Koba said, what was our launch attack on the presence of blacks in Europe? No more Libya, the reconquering of Europe. Sabrina now, sorry, as our pagan. And you almost started Libya reconquista. And only Spanish castle now the bar reconquering Europe again. And also the Inquisition, by persecuting religious people here. Now in among their membership net will be every group that is almost foresaw most of them into exile and a depleted African population in Europe. When we last picture, last
video, how black Europeans population was disseminated by the Reconquista, the acquisition and forced exile.
Historians' depictions of history may be, at most, erroneous and at worst deceiving, as Benjamin Franklin put it. Franklin penned, "Why should we put up with the invading Palatine Boers, who are actually Germans, settling down in our towns and gradually replacing our language and customs with theirs? Why should Pennsylvania, a province originally settled by English, become a melting pot of aliens who will soon outnumber us and Germanize us rather than the other way around? They can't possibly take on our skin color, much less our language or traditions." Which brings me to my next point. There are disproportionately few individuals on Earth who are white. In Africa, every single person is either black or tawny. In Asia, the majority of people are tawny. In the Americas, every single person is black or tawny. And in Europe, the majority of the Spanish, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are dark-skinned. The majority of the Germans, with the exception of the Saxons, are also dark-skinned. And the English are the most numerous white people on the planet. A portion of Franklin's quote is frequently left out. The black German king George II occupied the throne of England in 1751, the year in which Franklin penned this article. One could ask, where did all those black people go? If there were really so many black people in Europe. A complex chain of events led to the decline of the black European population, and here is the solution. Some examples of these events are the Jacobite exile, forced migration, the Reconquista, and the Inquisition. Islam, a new religion brought to Europe by Arabs and Africans, caused a revolt in Europe following the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula by the mostly black Moors. The result of this resistance was the Reconquista, an armed and cultural conflict that lasted from the 8th to the 15th century. At this time, the cruel Inquisition was underway, and its goal was to exterminate Protestant converts and Jews. Judaism and Protestantism were religions that many black people had turned to from Islam because they were consistent with their earlier convictions. The Spanish Inquisition began in 1478 with the goal of strengthening Catholic authority through the persecution of heretics, such as Jews who converted to Christianity and Muslims who were baptized. To coerce conformity and get confessions, the Inquisition resorted to cruel tactics such as torture. Despite the fact that many Jews claimed to have converted to Christianity in an effort to flee persecution, the conversos were nonetheless singled out and eventually expelled. The Jewish community in Spain was devastated in 1492 when Ferdinand and Isabella issued an edict requiring Jews to convert or depart the country. Moors who had sought refuge in Judaism were numerous among these Jews. Eventually, in the early 17th century, the Moriscos were exiled as a result of being persecuted by the Inquisition. As a result, many African Americans emigrated to Jamaica and other countries from Ireland to Spain. The origin of the Anglo-Saxon race demonstrates that a considerable percentage of the people in Scotland and Ireland was black before the Viking invasion in the late 8th century. Surnames and historical sources that mention this heritage include Blackman, Blackman-Blake, Seward, meaning swarthy, Stuart, and Cert. The African Americans in this area eventually became the Jacobites, who sided with King James, or Jacobus. Exile to the Americas was the fate of many Jacobites. According to J. Macbeth Forbes's Jacobite Gleanings, the transportation of the Jacobites in 1745, passenger manifests reveal that Jacobites were transported to Antigua and other Caribbean locations, thus forcing them into exile. An intriguing aspect of this is that their names and physical characteristics are provided, and it is evident that the bulk of them are black. Both William Blake and Douglas Campbell have dark complexions and black curly hair. Keep in mind that the Old English words Dougal and Doug signify black, hence, many people with these names descend from ancestral black families. Alex Katak, auburn-haired, robust. John F. Kennedy is also black, and Angus McIntosh is black and extremely powerful, so it's not just at the very top. The list is endless. The great majority of African Americans came to the United States via ship, although a smaller but nonetheless significant minority of African Americans from Europe either fled persecution at home or were forcibly transported there. The large number of black people in Europe was decimated by the Reconquista, the Inquisition, and forced exile. After their removal, all representations of influence were systematically erased from icons, leading to the illusion of a solely European medieval history. As a result, people of Afro descent can no longer see themselves reflected in the nobility of bygone days. Furthermore, they have brought about a group of individuals who have been brought up with this falsehood, who have never dared to challenge it, and who now utilize it to justify their own racial supremacy. But we know from looking at the past that this is completely false. Africans, this time donning turbans, offer the suffering Europeans the seeds of civilization once again, just as they had done 9,500 years ago when the black Natufians shared the knowledge of agriculture with everyone, and again between 300 and 500 BC when they taught the Greeks everything they knew.
Usia sabri uguso a wohwe Wake Up Africa na video ya hwe e kire kwan a abrofo no efa so a omu ye ya ma nne sa history a na wo ho a na kire se blacks ahinie akas enema kese akoso wo Europe no ya before na ye no omu fa Inquisition ene sa Thomas Cromwell enema omu ye so minim krada ene na mehu sesa Germany na ohene na omo hene kese pa na ye black nti omo fa sa kwan we so epia omo nyina yi omo nyina even America ho no epia omo nyina kogu Caribbean Jamaica na omo kopia omo nyina fi ona ana omo fa sa yi sa history we nyina sai ni nyina se ne be ya ene se ye ka Europe ho asema ana America ho asema onko gina onko ka se hey me bibini me na me man ne matimi adu babi amadu no we ani ade ofa se opa hontuma na ye nyina ye ho ofa pacho me dase
edase enti sene ye ya black history in Europe the dismantled record oba de na hodia na o tue se ne be descendants of Ham.
Okay,
but manues
ofa me pacho ye dase pa ofa se odinanu asi na o tue se ne no yes now bad yedum yen ya ye be descendants of Ham answer na be call for Israel ho no yen fa messages ni kakra em say abusuafo no de message ni bi aba enu nti ye be kinkan message ni bi kakra na fe yakọ Israel ho I say asemo I'm into the research but where do I get your information now yeah researcher you know Ubenyabi hello Wake Up Africa please where are we watching you from? I'm Sandra from Tepa. Me pacho o hwe efi Accra ane Accra ana o hwe efi. Okay. Hello, I'm Jamal from Entry Ejekrom in the Ashanti region. I'm really enjoying the show this afternoon, and I'm surprised too, and at the same time I'm confused. We are confused that bibini sa before Juma yedi ni home onye ohun. Okay, yo. Please, good afternoon. I want to ask that is heaven exist? I want to ask that is heaven exist or reincarnation exist? Hey, asemo yo. Baby, I do the media. I'm Travis from Egiso. Please, I wanna ask how blacks got such position in Europe. And one our father Nadi. Greetings to you, the host and Wafayao and Mr. Israel, for your wonderful teachings based on historical facts proving the black Africans' role in the world civilization. This attests to the fact that blacks were the first in everything because ancient forbidden knowledge and twisted history. We have been misled for so long, and thanks to you, Wafa and Mr. Israel, for such a revelation. This Safo watching you live from Sefi. Watching you live from Sefi. Fusukrom, keep up the good work. Yo, yeah, that's it. Sir, keep the good work. I'm a J from Tanoso Dumase. Dominase. Okay, yo, yeah, that's it. How can I free my mind? How can I free my mind? Sing to God away. Hey, message no sign for brebium. And good afternoon. You are killing me today. You are killing me today too. Everlasting Yao. You are the one true leader in this generation. Yah bless thee from Amache Tema Newtown. Yo. Yate. Yate. Sofumame from Kumase. Keep up the good work. God bless Wafa and the crew. Well done for unveiling the hidden books. Greetings to Wafa, Brother Israel and Brother Willie and Mama Africa. Yo, Amunyina Eje so. Okay. I asked this question 2 weeks. I asked this question 2 weeks ago. Please, I'm not here to challenge you, but I want to learn from you. How did white people came to existence? Of our kase sasem way obe ebeba entimunya abutre ni nyina ebeba. That's why the whites show blacks attitude when they are in their hometown. They don't want us to take positions again. And akoma okwaina wo sign beji ni kuro ni bosso. What in your better view? Mo amofre ne yesre mofra yentumi enkenkan we no yesre mo mamo mofre. Good afternoon. I'm Esiama from Ebuakwa. Please, I want to ask this mind-boggling question. At the onset of creation, what was the time, and who even invented time in the first place? Hey, yo. Question here. I'm very happy for the good work you are doing. I'm surprised but happy for this. This has to be shown in our schools and Africa will rise again. I'm James from Amasaman. Okay, yedibesia time no messages in the band eba. Order for a fire dikai no. Hi, ye try ye waba ye ba na fe a fire to sum no ye de asise so.
General Abatown, a Yaniko multimedia, so pay video editing, photo shoot, photo editing, documentary, business advert, music video, funeral program, birthday parties, onua uni haukra. Esan say Nico multimedia ebeye ni nyina. Nanso yenwie yo, se wo ye wedding papa bi, Nico multimedia si enha ho kra. O me cover ni nyina ma. Se wo ye asori, anaso se wo ye edwumakuo bi a wo pese wo streaming live wo program. Aye social media handles na, aye Twitter, Facebook ene de keka ho na. Nico multimedia si woni how. Esan so mo ye ni nyina live abra program na ekoso. Nico multimedia si omotonton gadget aye media gadget papa ebini aye audio and video equipment, cameras, speakers, microphones, mixers ni nyina Nico multimedia aye ho adwuma. Nico multimedia ewo Koforidia eho ana motare betimi afre Nico multimedia ewo 0244 549107 aye Nico multimedia the media general ewo town. Thank you.
Yasan aba aye Wake Up Africa ene wani guso a wo hwe yi Royal Television na yaba yi na the second section no ena yaba yi na kese ye ko yenu apanyi Israel ho na ono so ni awo no ene odi asom yen Israel mo akwa aba joso mi se ahode wo ho pa ene me hwe wani mi ya books no enye izo ene ye bie books ni mu na okay em say busu ani nyina no aye krado omo twen o enu nti sabi yes em rekra ye beda ne di na se
mechia etiefo nyina
omo di so
na die opane e kano asemo mo na reho na wajin sa ko edin se obi anka krampa unyi ne se before etumi ababen ji ewiase e control pen na okano arithmetic me yebi ya time is arithmetic and essay mathematics abafuna onu se obo de brain tell before na dey class
okay class la nkofo bisa se hinfo na de buy ni ofa bisa na nkofo njindi nkofo se omo njindi se eye nkofo nwanwa omo se omo ye surprise eye omo nwanwa omo ka so omo njindi but omo se eye omo nwanwa
kumi ede se wonya obi a wonyi dia obeyira
sure
he asore o safro wa so be face no o se David onya ejuma so ade ya se video bi a won se safo bi wa America a won se o di pa safo no to se Jesus Christ we be ni into obakra Sada atijuro yo
gajolo la se ya se o ga se ba bi o ti mi ma ba ti ye de obese
Ele vai dizer, nem mano de begu assim, não. Ou não ti, ou se não ti mo não é. Na a filha, a gente me sei, indieka. Onde me stick on chere de kura.
Okay.
Indieka.
Okay.
Se só for tu ma kan pain o din
Billy
Graham. O me já respect the sense of Garcia pa. O ka say dia, o do no way. Então eu posso fazer program no onde me challenge. O meu como de passar uma mão for etiasse abrofo. O mundo se enshira. Connection with the obadiye. Spirituality, yeah. Who nyama na before dia. Ntumu hu sɛ ɔmo mfɔso a ɔmo no guase ntumu bɔ mo de ase ɔmo yi nyinaa firi hɔ no mo meka ha sɛ Onyankopɔn a nnɛ elɛhyi asafo ahodoɔ obiara ɛka n'asɛm no Onyankopɔn ɔne abibifoɔ ɛna ɛde leyɛ broni nka ho bɛbi de kaa time na hu papa esan sɛ obetumi kasa na wada awia na tie no what's when you see ye and the abofo no nyina hwem
yeah obetumi kasa na awia gina
yeah hwɛ ɛfadefo me kasa mo ndɛ ɛfadefo no mo tumi bi a obetumi kasa saa na asafia pai awa kromante wo ekokum ne mo no saa wo nyinaa wo fi wiase o ɛna nkyirima ya ba accept asole say a way to God ɛna ya hwiase ɛwɔ ne hwɛ ɔmo ba no ɔmo hu sɛ before ɔmo ne kopɔn awa yɛ kofa ɔmo ne ɔbɔ adeɛ kumi ɔmo pɛsɛ wo sɛ yɛ kopɔn hu a kugina ɛmpoano anadwo bɛ 1 o'clock wo sɛ ɔbɔ adeɛ ɔwɔ tumi sɛ yɛ kopɔn no na before ɛna nante broni ka ho abafo mu saa no ɔmo sɛ na bi ɔmo fɔ kwa bi so a ada before a ɔmo de begu ase enti ɔmo ba no de begu yɛ no
last week I'm say last 2 weeks o me kenkan King Leopard
yes
King Leopard for ayi ni
could be the ɔmo hu sɛ akwala ɔmo so sua de a nani ehu ade kyɛ na
yeah visual
enti ɔmo yɛ book bi from the book of my Bible stories ɛno na di a afɔdo yi si a ɔmo de bread before ase up to date book no ɔkɔpɛ bi
oh see I'm fine check
ɛde aba
yo the book of my Bible story we ye nyina Sunday school ya kenkan sa book we sa the book of my Bible story we no ɔmo de be boy adwuma ni nyina obi ani wa ɔkɔ asɔre ɔkɔ Sunday school nko a we sa book we
thank you
na emu nyama nyina ya abrɔfo Abraham Moses your friend is saying ne mai mami ensan Jacob Noah no omo nyina Noah ne mai nyina bibia ye broni Jesus Mary Joseph ni nyina broni e na omo de be kyerɛkyerɛ yɛn ene wom
ntuwe ni ade a asɔre for the buy nti asɔre no buy say obadane ya dwene afiri onyakopɔn ho no mo no nti ofa video no ofa say abafo no de sanity at the buy before that time no almost so almost say omo kwai dare we say that I'm video I don't know if almost say you believe I don't know if American Newsweek at the church say you believe
okay where Tokyo's Judeo economics
why that is no
okay
that I'm more
the why bashing Japan doesn't work. Newsweek, the search for Adam and Eve. Scientists explore a controversial theory about man's origins.
Now here, the Jehovah's Witness, I thought for the Bible say Adam and Eve.
Yes, man and woman. But you yeah, no na why Adam and Eve. Yes, you omo ya brofo no mo wo ho no mo da ho no. Aha. Say no.
Yeah.
Broni pa Adam and Eve. Amunya ya brofo kwesi kokko enso sa no mo ya before. And teacher say Adam ni Eve Bible come ho asem no na ye ka before ho asem na nye broni. And so for Israel catch you say nyame enya before na nante ya. You ose oka usini pi. Aha. Yo.
Yeah. Omo ye se na bi a bibini bo hu se wo de wo nipa
nka ho kra.
Omo ye se na omo ni so ampa.
Say psychological.
The people be if you go to Chrome. Book was the kind of Saba will see. Almost say Moses or you believe the boy. Good.
Yo. Moses Moses your first story book no ma say Moses na Moses nso Bible we my first story book no Moses amu ye ni bibroni pa Moses ni ayi bi ni ana o broni Moses oye tuntum pa
ana dia
sa
the book of my Bible story so oye o de kire ye
no so yan hwe ye be book my Bible story so say no so Moses ni aye bra na yesi wadi bone na wa kum obi ntie no
thank you
wo Egypt asase so na gese omo wi ya nti odwane enti wo ya pacho oye tuntum we koko bronifita and my first story book Eddie Moses ya de be share ya adwum psychological play
that Mary on Jesus on picture
eno ene ka ya adwum register ya say oh san krofo nyina ya abrofo enti broni de obenyame broni ye nyankopon san no de beto ya adwum ma yehu
yeah Joseph
ena me
yere omo abante reference Jesus kan sa abafo we say papa no maame the ba no ya
abrofo ena da so ya abrofo
enti we na abafo no de ba ya mba wi ya gere sa obi si mfoni e kan he na le say the say that of your tell no ka say oye
broni say ya look at the pictures and go David on be kasa papa bi oba ya na oye isa oye broni
Joseph no broni
broni
Mary broni the balaso broni
and 3 wise men bi kura na yeso omo ya
go na so me cast them say Mary no owo abantie no Israel iwa adan wo fa the holy sepulchre and for the book na drawing bibini tum eti yi ya gele afri bibini so ele boni agele atwadom we na be see enne bibini ogine holy
ofakra yi videos wa ha na pope ankasa ni ruma obom paye no o ye ya o Mary ana oboho a okokotu ni mu bom paye no na bibini picture
pia
ena na eboho
tama Joseph on the Mary wo Yeshua Hallelujah
okay
from the original from Jerusalem
pacho mahu ne da so no ena ne wa ha nsusu nie ti mahu ne da ba TV no so no Mary ni Joseph mo hwe Mary ni Joseph nso so e wa ha se mahu se na tie na ya wo Yeshua we before kind na 3 wise men no so enam kwan so sa pepepe
etino ye amanfo hunu se Onyankopon obonu wiase no oni bibini na nanti ye na abofro ye so smart se mo bibini hunu se Onyankopon dia abofro omo ye o ifa etwa ya ma no yi bibini afi bibia mu ena unya babra bibini fodilo ibini no bibia no aso de kura ko na bibia bruni we na de am control agene up to date bibini no oni no hodi hwe obu wa no bibini na o tubi kaka o tubi hwe wani no wa ka ho tuma chao so twa kai na dro
ya be condemn this year
so Billy Graham obaba na hado mu a obaba na to so o de fi Yakopon cause all you bruni we ni akase ti abofode afode baaye no obo fa ma se bibini ibehu Yakopon obo de ba se oboyi oba de fi agilum sa obo ibehu se bibini kala no eba ni kwa bono but that's the ruby I was saying na obo ko ye dwuma wo ekulase ono no e bini wo na o se obi tumi abafo ko na de tumi ba no de ade twi ho no sa ade o se ya se mo ye curse ntana ma ye tuntum ti efi na ya saro no mi sa de say ti o be jo ase no fi o ba sa fa Africa do bi wa na no se de bi ti ya so ti still ha and you go because ya catch me say no me no and am the paro I tuntum rubi say osi ti o tumi akọ krom hu bi akọ edwuma no bi na say abafo say peti blast no a cho no kwala no awo
we dey gumi o mu ya tete eti no all ba nyina onyi nyina na da na adwunim so wo ye ne tamfo
kumi ni na ya sorry book say nya sorry dia book for Bible sorry dia eti no asọrọ ba ya no agenda o de ba ya say obeyi Onyankopon afi adwunim obama ya no say e filia eti enne so obi kwasore na say the year fine but in the beginning no adwuna abofo de ba ya say ebiyi Onyankopon afi abifo adwunim insan say na the beginning kwafa so a Onyankopon communicate enne eye for no bolu national ba the style of worship o paya so say meditation ni ye persist ya sra ade fi obo ade ho enne afarba ya no Everybody is by phobia, and fee, or blue phantom, that is Bonsum, Ega, wait! I go with your Africa, a boat and a joke, but on the crocker. No, not the night, a form, 50 Jerusalem, the Pajan Sata. Nobody, because maybe. No, you say, you trust yet. I send you a comment be answered on every not man, say, oh, yeah, very because my mother was speaking from the church background, religious background. When Jimmy and Tappy and film and film the books, no, my grandfather. Please, I so about fire. Come so about bayan pa ba o won profita ofra. Ntoma white no ofra. No de oya bia papa no sa fa no sa no nsuo. No ko je ba bi no de kire apuye. Hwe aso ka no ntie wu so obira no. So sa ba na wa. Ko je mo sa ah. Obia okaje say me se libi to da mo ko sa kan afa enfele afa mama no mo so e be fo yeah mo se enna asolefo abadan oba dia jere efi ya jere mo afa na mo pale o so to mo emma babri omu yusu eso babri buta no eso buta no obo de no bo for white hello Pierre white when enne before ahwase the scene there of ka say no kan spirituality and the way fa you know the person no my personal problem so who result no onu obi ebi ni usia Christian ni na ne kasa na ka che ne say onyame abrabo de man ye spirituality ne mu wan man religious life a na akokan so on tiase life no ni mo nim say abrabo no bibi for ya abrabo na ye spirituality je okenka history Noah tamo wi akno offer from one so kasada mo no yeah o komane mo na mo no so tutu okwa South Africa Zulu ahino otubu kasa ego from na emwa no mo ba nso do onka so do do kwa so se pe na wi ya ba tatu no be yira asa bible mu na di fo ne kasa o fom no kro timi ma bo a che wo wi enti no and let me say ma ahwefo so re ebe mo bi no aso me ka say ma no afa picture ba fata so ma picture no see me say the shop come be 100 years no o ma say go ni catch up play
Okay.
da la fata so ma what
But you move fa MC am fa ntiso ma.
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
A time will come you will call. There was a man, a white man.
A white man. No, man history.
Wow,
no can.
I thought today, I thought another day.
I see of a picture now.
Another day, I have cast the world. No, they change. No, they are come on. The catch up play.
No, of course.
Because a man from Australia for that sort I'm not surprised.
Yeah, sure.
Until Moses, a time will come about for no better than we see. So what that King Charles? King James. Not King James.
There is no way
I'm
better than me. NTMC am but mo fa of your picture na to so my.
It's no when idea or my mo hear you. Yeah. Kumi.
Yes sir.
No dey say better.
There.
Make us kakao. Me say you say a time will come. Hwɛ. It's my life. For no before.
Before.
Hwɛ catch the one. Hwɛ.
And then we Ishmaelite no me before too and then enti Israel ka say and there say picture we e be du baabi no e be hu ana o madane
na
roni a anya nwanwa no kure pa
yo tumi nkunu a na so no wu na cha da fra na fi ni image no kakra enti on ayi hwatira da ntaka bodo na
ma sisa
o ma change no ade bia na ade papa bia broni ye bia no broni ye bia no broni aye ede agriculture
sure
ene agriculture broni wa fa agriculture afa enti ade bia ade papa bia no aye ye bia no broni sa se obe change no one by one ma bi ni ohun no fe oye papa
oni bibi ye bibi woni mu da eno ana o ma ya besi ni
se sabu ko si afa mo to yo ade a aye Africa for no
di ye
wa kwa so da
buku ye aye juma kese papa
afa wa kwa so da o the book of Bible story hey otum bibi musa na ora ho hey yango pa broni Jesus broni Abraham broni where broni
nti e den na obitimi ya twemu ano bi sese nti e den kwa na nyame boy before atenti no waye yesa adenti yende wadom yen
obi ko tun ka se bibi so ni
pa we nyina aba esan book we nti
aba afa no the me can say it be a true you because can be fathom African spirituality.
Yes, spirituality.
I don't know idea afa in the pa ashere. That the follow bompire na ngopon ansam no. And they say aso yam so omugumu kake omu hwe. De broni de bibini nti and na ye ho yam sa. Nti fa ahokyere ayamma
bibini
ayamma eye kakra no ma ye sa be sinne nti buso e kodo ebedi ho pe onosi
obade ye hira ye da se afa Israel so de na no asi MC a monhwe na afi yenkenkan messages ni kakra na mfa numbers no so number no mo frɛ me line no ye pam choma mo frɛ ne ye de kenkan ne ye da so na ye de kenkan messages no or the number for to so number frɛ. Good afternoon great teachers, keep the fire burning. In fact, you are too much. Teach us more. From Jerry New Edubiasi. Okay. Esramo line we ma mo frɛ mo fra mo be mo moayen mo be hayen esa na yentumi nkenkan messages no. The book of my Bible stories is a psychological play. All the images in the Bible, including the angels, are white, but Lucifer is black. This tells us that all the black men were son of Lucifer. Wake Up Africa has come to stay forever. watching you live from Dunkwao, Onofin, Upper Denchira East. My name is Elom Khlozi. Okay, yeah, that's it. Yes, we are say, keep the fire burning, my divine teachers. Special greetings to you all. Keep the fire burning, my Hebrew teachers and the national coordinator. I'm Aka Frimpong. Okay, Western North, Sefi. Asanyin so. Aka yo yeguso. Yada also was Saudi message yaba. This is Stephen Musa from Bandai. Please, the wise men keep on enlightening us. Okay, yo, offer eguso na juma ono de or chire yeah ebetie no wa betie no ebeboa. Hello, good afternoon. You are doing great job. Thanks for motivating us from Umale Wasa Ekropon. Okay, yo. Wake up Africa, please. What is the name of the Bible with the photos of Black Moses and Jesus Christ? From Emmanuel Adesu Easton. Okay, yo. I know Black Heritage, African Heritage Bible. Okay. I know a book no African Heritage Bible. Offer Israel Consulta. Epacho eno onsa ebetumi akabi. Okay. We so yeah. Hello, please. Good afternoon. I'm confident man watching from Ashia. Please, one man of God is saying 2028 is the end of the world. Yo, eno de ono no waka enti oya na wako bisa ono. Yo, over an hour no. Thanks for the education. The whites have always deceived Africans. From Ebenezer Edu Jacobu. Okay. Epacho mo the line no atuso amayana ani epacho line e daso no ubetimi afre na ne yadi nkomo line no e daso no 020030 296 7114 mon frère Ceciana for no disem ebra Kwaku from Sefi. How are you? Please, where can I find God? Hey, yo, where there say ofate. Where can you find God? I greet you all, great teachers. Hello, Udini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Hello.
Udini,
good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Udini Fakwa Ofrefi. Yeah, Joso.
Okay. Now, I'm going to catch up with them. Now, you can come to the I'm catching, but many books, you know, the Cremo can be decided. Let them be free because you're not here, you're must say, am I a fight? And I'm only blacks. I'm only blacks, you know, book, no, I'm a son, I'm 20, and I say, the town come with you, Mamma.
Yo, Oma and Pennyfor Ate, Niaokano. I greet you all, great teachers. This means that the Satan are white peoples. I am Obed Dazi from Obuedi Ahanta Westing. Okay. Yo. Hello, Dini Papa Frefi. Me pacho otie no ofre na otie ho aye be yiwa fiso. Ofra no adwum na watimi ene yakasa. Adwum radio no, o TV no. Aha, o ya na volume no, elowa no.
Hello.
Hello, Dini Fakwa Frefi.
I'm going to class.
Okay, yanko wanu disem.
Paso ankabeya ankamomwa abandi edeba. Na ye history curriculum ewo FCS anate junior high school ko amoye no compulsory e de bela. Yibehu yo say you want your mafa ankola no bisia anka me couple subject because for me the history that I learned in FCS na amam but Africa you're losing your mother brain and they are coming to anka history no moment your core subject or FCS on my end. And I FCS me to be am sorry not only am upon keep am be a good obeko na na say on for na say relation and the on pa for na
yo empanyifo ate wasem no Yeah, that's it. So no one know the same. SHS. Government in the ultimate history. It's a government na na Isaac, please, where will I get some of your Bible to buy, please? Hello, Udini Fakwa Frefi.
Yeah, but sorry, I could see you more because first one on pom.
Yo, Mpacho and Bissam Yanko.
The patrol between the same with you. But Patrol having one of I could echo one manner. Because I say, about 15 kwan and also on the classy.
Yo, I'm paying for to some. Yo, having. Yo, I'm paying for it. We say what they are saying is lies. One fan the dean so yo. Or say, or no sooner dear or dear banana. I want the full story of Jesus, please. I'm Prince from Takrade. Hello, Udini Fakwa Frefi. Oh, okay. Ho me pacho yo. Ye tie one di sem fatu ja.
Chairman na mpeni for me chon.
Yo mpeni for aje so.
Amagana ya fira de nyen papa bi na se kwa. Nti me ma so bi na ni. Yo papa bi se bam ayako.
Yo.
Ya se nti nyan ko pa mo ai.
Yo, yeah that's say. Anyone who di sem. Please play it back. Billy Graham didn't say that Jesus is black. Sir Johnson, the Bible was silent. I tell you that Adam was black and Eve was white. Sir Johnson.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Udini Fakwa Frefi. Hello. Hello, Udini Fakwa Frefi. Munyi ni fiso otie no. Pacha ofra no wadwom. Wa lowa osete no. Ama yen se ne be ya obetimi ne yedi nkomo. Na se otie ho de a anya ye na odi yedi nkomo no. Cause wa no ho na yedi nkomo. Aha. Yetwaso. Good afternoon, senior. Please, can you ask where can we in this poor issues stay? And the whites are enjoying more that. But our message, you know, San Fabribium na ne kind. Good afternoon. I'm Bismarck from. Hello, Udini Fakwa Frefi.
Mr. Please. Fantastic.
Okay, why don't you say? For one of these to Jayanko.
What okay?
One of these to Jayetio.
What okay?
One of these to Jayetio.
Yo, I can't catch every fantastic. Papa, Kukudanka, Yanko Pontian degree. What the degree? Why are they? Yeah, it's just you say. I can know who and the fire.
Yo, what's
it? And some of us black and some of us quite and a fire.
Okay, yo, of a tiny auntie, obey you are no. I say, Munyabu train and no baba. Good afternoon. I'm Bismarck from Atim Osinase. Your program is educative and I'm learning a lot from my master Yao. Please place number on the screen for us to help. Hello, Udini Fakwa Frefi. Message.
Hello.
Hello, Udini Fakwa Frefi. One of the same to Jayetio. Tieno.
I'm the jail for your Pokudampa and Israel. The castle of a follow movement. 2019. I need your papa for so one day we didn't share one away. And some of your Israel, maybe a motor, what I can't get it there. And it's you know, I'm going to go on a program, but never one of them control with the sea. And it's true to Palam, you know. I don't know how to see the higher power. I won't. It is a what did it to me? And the father, I did you for so.
Yeah, that's it. Already, maybe I say, near the man in say, on the crano, obey man who cannot daddy, no upon throw. We are near Canada. I want your men some, say, Yabe, only the other summon in the head or ye 1 year. Hello, Dini Fakwa Frefi.
Hello, Cassette.
Yeah, Pacho, I know this same for 2 Jayetio.
ana be yen so ya da ma so pa ya mi shira o fanu Israel on samo mo de na
okay
na mpese mi bisa se on Bible dia no yo se nipa ni black ya ja tu se ya dia no yi mpese bisa se emu osam no so aso mo dia na aso no ye hwe yisu ana
yo empanyifo ate wa question no on be ya no very educative and informative program Yahweh bless you all. Wafa and brother Israel, I salute you. Remain blessed. Okay. Yo.
Hello.
Hello, didn't you hello. Okay. Yo, but you want to say yanko.
Questions so we someone now. We yan one family. Obi bi said six seven one heaven in war. Won to yan no one family. Nti chede we yan ye na wadi mayan nenyu ye.
Okay, yo yate aya nsam ni bi wo ha mu bisa. E bi wo ha na yi anu dada. Empanyifo yi anu dada. Enti se esan question is repeat sa na. Ene nenso nye heaven dwumadie na ye ka. Enti we ne sa na otwu dwumadie ni kwa akire. Ha, heaven sem no fatena ha explain ya kire mu pa ye.
Nkata bi acha ngezi.
Oh yo, hello, Odi.
Ato, ga before na kaza yenjin. Oh. Because I thought nobody na omu na omu kita Bible. That's the Bible down. Yenim Yesu wasem. Na yenim Yesu be ofi Yesu in the Bible sanso Yesu say na onu kwa no te na why ne hu say bon sanso Yesu say. It was them for that in the moment she ninja before no I'm sorry I pray ni na pattern our Ghana. That's the motion when I'm coming on mommy pa me tell
yeah tell you what do this yo please who bring maths in the world eh where we be any who brings maths in the world mathematics no can maths also obi say na dey ba wi ase eno ne ye ka no ofan so akire sade we e wo ha. I'm Travis from Ejuso. Please, I want to ask how blacks got such positions in Europe. Please, I was trying to say that was the blacks there at Europe before the white mans came? Okay. Please, I'm Kobina, watching you live from Bobby Kuma. You are doing a great job. Okay. Yo. MCR, you want me to cry na yemre no ayebe. Oh, okay. Okay. Yo, mami fa last message na fe yen wrap it up. Please, I want to be part of your WhatsApp group. I want to know more about this. I just joined. Okay, yo. And then I hope so say o join yen. Yeah, but your book of Jasha ewa ha. Book of Enoch ewa ha. Ni nyina no Israel consort ene de abadwa manso se wo frɛ na onsa ebeka sa books yi nyina bi aha mo bisa books o de frɛ Israel consort na ene ni nkomo o hwɛ screen ni so a obehu Israel number Israel consort number e wo so o frɛ na book bia o hwehwɛ bia no na wabisa onsa ebetumi akabi ene dwumadi a yedi eye bibini ɛho asɛm ɛna yɛ ka yɛ kyerɛ bibini sɛ biribi atwam no oyankopɔn a ɔyɛ ɔbɔ adeɛ ɔne before na nantiye na fiti Noah embre so a ebe ɔde nipa ebe hyase ɔde Noah ne ne ma hyase ne ne yene hyase no na ɔmo yɛ before ano kyerɛ sɛ before ɛna nyame ɛne ɔmo nantiye we ɛna ɔfa akyerɛ mu a ɔka sɛ ɛnkyɛ bia bibi na si yɛ ma broni kɔkɔ ɔbɛfa wiase na na ɔmo fa wiase ɔmo ba bi ɔmo de wiase na kodu na ɛwɔ nhyehyɛ mu ɔba ade nhyehyɛ mu sɛ bibini bɛsan fa wiase ne biom na wa control ɛno na ɔfa ɛkyirikyiri mu ɛde yɛn kɔ mpanyinfo a ne me di dwuma yi ɛyɛ ɔfa yɛpoku dankwa a ɔyɛ executive director ɛde ma eko ɛfɛ ne freedom mind movement ɔne ne ba Israel Nkrumah a ɔno so yɛ national coordinator ɛde ma eko ɛfɛ ne freedom mind movement me a me di dwuma di kyia me di ni Kofi Kumi baabi a obi hyia me bia no me di ano no ɔbɔ ade dom yɛn a dasɛnɛ yɛbɛsɛn ahyia akram
Okroto wa matia sai. Amuna